come with me on this journey into Emma Stone's. It's like the magic school bus. The frizz? Is the frizz here? Yeah, it's frizzy. Please, God, don't ever, ever let my mother see this video. She will die. Well, hello, welcome back to Booze Reviews, where I, Aunt Boo, drink some booze and I reviews movies. Today's booze is Apothic Crush Soft Red Blend. And I know what you're thinking. How, Carrie, can you cheat on Josh? I discovered this wine long before Josh. And this is my go-to wine. Now look, I love Josh. We're not exclusive, okay? I can't give him that much commitment. I never used the word tasty about a wine before I actually tried this one. It's easy to drink, it's smooth as silk, and it's cheap. It's less than $15. I think it's like $11.99 at Target right now. Some stores have it for $8.99. And Apothic makes a variety of wines, and I think they're all pretty damn good, but this crush, hands down my favorite. And I thought the name of the wine would go really well with today's movie because I kind of have a crush on Emma Stone now, even though after watching this movie, I don't ever want to see that girl naked again. Too much. It's too much muff. This movie is Poor Things. And it was nominated for a bunch of awards. And it stars Emma Stone, Mark Ruffalo, because we always hang in a Ruffalo stance. Went to the top every time we dance. Give you love, baby, not romance. So don't you get fresh with me. Wop. Who else? Willem Dafoe is in this. Rami Youssef is in this. He's actually really good. There's a significant character in Jared Carmichael. I think I'm mispronouncing his name. Gerard Carmichael, I think. You know what? I'm just going to drink. It's like two guys wrote this. So it's Tony McNamara and Alasdair Gray. It's directed by Yorgos Lanthimos, who is a Greek little horny devil. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't know him personally, but I imagine because of all the sex and nudity in this movie that he's just a little Greek hornball. I cannot stress this enough. Lots and lots and lots of sex. English degree. We are going to talk about some very adult themes today. Self-pleasure. It's funny that I got stuck on that. We're going to talk about prostitution. We're gonna get into some janky. We're gonna put some stank on it today, okay? And so if that topic makes you uncomfortable, off. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. If that topic makes you uncomfortable, it's okay. Come back next week. We'll talk about Showgirls, which has much less sex in it than this movie. I'm not even kidding. I think less nudity too. And how many naked men did we see? One, and he's not a main character. So what the hell is that bullshit? Feminism. Let me read to you the description because I do think it's funny, and we will talk about how I feel about this movie and why it kind of pissed me off. The evolution of Bella Baxter, a young woman brought back to life by the brilliant and unorthodox scientist Dr. Godwin Baxter. She calls him God. A lot of people do. Very heavy-handed. but it works. It actually works here because it's funny. Under Baxter's protection, Bella is eager to learn. Hungry for the worldliness she is lacking, Bella runs off with Duncan Wedderburn, who's played by Mark Ruffalo, could win my love. A slick and debauched lawyer on a whirlwind adventure across the continents. Free from the prejudices of her times, Bella grows steadfast in her purpose to stand for equality and liberation by having a fuckfest across the continents. I didn't know the end game of feminism was becoming a prostitute, but thank God these men wrote this movie to explain it. I'm drinking a lot of this shit tonight. Before I move on, I have to ask you to please like this video and subscribe to my channel. If you subscribe to my channel, then eventually I might be sponsored by Smirnoff Ice. No, I'm kidding. This does something to the algorithm. I'll eventually get some ad revenue. I'm trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers so I can get like some ad revenue, so I can make like some wine money, I guess. Like and subscribe. Let's talk about Poor Things and the joys of self-pleasure. So Poor Things. Poor Emma Stone had to be so naked in this movie. But why? Why all the sex and why all the nudity? I will reiterate, because it was written by men, and in a man's mind, the most liberated a woman can be is not to have agency over her body, but to feed into the exploitation of it, to have the power to exploit her own body, and thereby exploiting the men who want to exploit her body. And that's up, especially when you consider the overarching story, which is that she is a creation. So let me explain.
No, there is too much. Let me sum up.
Emma Stone deserved that Oscar. She gives a phenomenal performance. I've never seen anything like this in a movie. And I've never seen a movie like this. It's beautiful. It's visually stunning. Everything is gothic, but also sort of this Lovecraftian steampunk pastel watercolor world. And I find that I'm so lost in how good this movie is that I kind of have to compartmentalize the pretty big issue that I have here. Okay, so at the beginning of the movie, we see Emma Stone. She throws herself off of a bridge. We don't know why. Then we see her in black and white. And that's another thing I love about the movie. It starts off in black and white, which is pretty much how babies see the world. And there's some really cool fishbowl camera lens use. You know, there's like the fishbowl thing, and it's just very cool. And again, the story is really good. The acting is so good that you just are immersed in this world right from the get-go. Okay, so Willem Dafoe plays a scientist called Dr. Godwin Baxter. And he is a renowned surgeon, renowned scientist, groundbreaking developments. And he fishes this body of Emma Stone out of the river from which she flung herself. And lo and behold, he replaces her brain with the unborn baby's brain inside of her, because she was brain dead and her brain couldn't be saved, but the baby inside of her hadn't quite yet. And so he takes the baby's brain and puts it in her. We don't see this happening, but we see enough gross stuff. There's a lot of gore in this movie. It's not like a horror movie gore, you know. It's more like it's just gory because he's a surgeon and you see a lot of brains and body parts and stuff. So much like Frankenstein, he kind of sews her up and he reanimates her body. And so now she has a woman's body. She has Emma Stone's body and Emma Stone's face and Emma Stone's eyes and Emma Stone's, you know, everything, cooch, and a baby's brain. And she's not your typical dumb baby. You know how babies are kind of dumb? She is very curious and she's intelligent and she is advancing at a rapid pace. So Dr. God, and yeah, they call him that, and she calls him Daddy God, which is very much that is so youth pastor at summer camp. If I don't know what, oh Daddy God, give us a good Nerf battle tonight. Oh Daddy God, we just love you so much, but thank you for this nutritious pizza. So she calls him Daddy God, and it's really triggering. It's really triggering to me. So God needs an assistant to monitor her and to take notes and to track her growth and development. So Daddy God hires Max. Max follows her around, tracks her development, eventually finds out where she came from, because it's a mystery at first, because, you know, you're not just supposed to like take bodies and conduct experiments on them. That's, you know, that's for the government to do, not for the weird, crazy scientists. Willem Dafoe looks real up. I think his father was abusive and conducted a bunch of experiments on him. So to him, this is just normal parenting, to like, you know, take a brain out of someone and put it in a grown-ass woman's body. So this is just a normal Saturday night for him. Then the assistant follows her around, tracks her growth and development. And of course he falls in love with her because she's a sexy toddler. You know, not like those stupid looking toddlers that you always see. She's like from Toddlers and Tiaras. I heard it is a bad joke. I'm going to definitely get canceled for that. I'm standing by the joke because this is the issue I have with the movie. This is the issue I have with anyone sexualizing, you know, that age bracket. And this should not be. But again, you get lost in this world, in the world of the movie. This is a morally gray area. This is like the dilemma that I face. This is why this movie pissed me off, because I love the movie. I really do. I liked the movie, but I will not watch it again. I refuse to watch it again. I'm going to have to watch it again to pull clips from it. Okay, well, I'll watch it, but I won't watch it. Because I don't even know what I'm going to be able to show you. Because again, it's just the vagina monologues. It's just Emma Stone being naked for like 2 hours. By the end of the movie, I'm like, I cannot see another weird nipple. Is that how guys feel about seeing naked women? I'm truly curious about this. Do you get tired of nudity? Because if you do, this movie, you'll be tired of it. You'll just be like, that's too much vag. That's too much vagina. I don't want to see it anymore. I don't want, no. This is how gynecologists must feel. And she is not only intelligent and absorbing everything about the world around her and very curious and aware of her surroundings. She knows she's being held in this house. They don't want her to leave the house because not only could it be a danger to her, it could be a danger to Dr. God, and they could take her away. And, you know, they're just worried about her in general. But she loves the world around her. And much like a toddler, she wants to walk in the grass and experience kids playing. And she doesn't understand her own limitations either, and why she has to be careful. So as she's learning the world around her, she's discovering things about herself. So she is like a toddler, is just wanting her immediate needs met. She's very much driven by her id right now. And even though she's curious about the world around her, she doesn't yet sympathize or empathize with other people. And I would argue this doesn't really happen all that much until a very pivotal moment later on in the movie. As all of these, as the guy's falling in love with her and he's tracking the data on her growth and development, she finds her hoo-ha. One morning, she's like, "What's that?" "Oh, it must be my hoo-ha." And she starts going to town on herself. Okay, this is where we get rated R here, okay? This is how I know that men wrote this, because she starts using weird things to try to put up her. And listen, when a woman discovers the joys of self-pleasure, it is not by sticking something inside of her. That's not usually how that goes. It is just gonna talk clinical here, okay? And trust me, I've had years of experience. Again, please don't let my mother watch this. It is clitoral. You're not looking at bananas and thinking, oh, especially as like a preteen or a teenager, you're not looking at stuff and thinking, ooh, I want to put that up in me. No, you find your clitoris and you just go to town on it. And then you're dumbfounded at how nobody else can seem to find it. She starts masturbating quite a bit and has a sexual awakening. And she's like, "Hey, guys, I just figured out the best thing in the whole world. I figured out a way to make myself happy." And damn it, if that doesn't explain masturbation, I don't know what the hell does. She's stuck in this house. The lab assistant falls in love with her and asks Daddy God if he can marry her. Because who doesn't want to marry Emma Stone with the toddler's brain inside of her? And Daddy God's like, "Yeah, that's a good idea, because then you can keep her safe and we can keep her here. And there's no risk of us losing her, or of her getting hurt and getting taken away, or of us losing our medical license to, cut open people's brains and do stupid shit with them." And so the guy, he's like, "Yeah, that sounds good." And so he signs a contract. He drafts up a contract to make sure that Bella stays in the house with Daddy God and Max. So meanwhile, Daddy God calls in a lawyer to make sure everything's on the up and up, to look over the contract and stuff. And it's just Mark Ruffalo, and he's gross. He is so slick, oleaginous, that's a big word. He's, the typical lawyer sleazeball of the 1800s. And it piques his curiosity. So he goes snooping around the house to find Bella. And what does he see? Emma Stone. And then he grabs her vagina. He just Donald Trumps her. I said it. And because she's, a toddler brain in a woman's body, she doesn't really respond like, "Hey, what the are you doing, you weirdo creep?" And because two men wrote this, she's all like, "Okay, I kind of like that." And so later that night, he comes into her room, he propositions her, and he wants to take her away. So she runs off to Lisbon with greasy old Mark Ruffalo's character, and then it's just from there it's a it's just a big fest. And he teaches her the indulgences and how to be extravagant, but not too extravagant. So he teaches her how to like enjoy oysters and how to eat tarts, but not too many tarts. And, you know, it's just more rules for her. And she's like, I don't understand the rules. And it's clear that they are, you know, they are having the good sex, which, again, I want to see Mark Ruffalo's butt. You know what? I want to see Mark Ruffalo's butt like 15 years ago, but I don't want to see it right now. It's not, it's gross. It's gross. He's gross in this movie. He's very good, but it's gross. I think intentionally. It's supposed to be gross. So Bella, she doesn't want to be controlled. That's why she left Daddy God. That's why she left Max. And she has every intention, by the way, of returning back to Max and keeping her part of the contract, because I do think she developed some sincere feelings, as much as a grown woman with a toddler's brain could develop for, you know, Rami Youssef. Is that how you say his name? Rami? Oh yeah, so then she's like, I don't want to be controlled. I want to go out. I want to explore the city. I don't want to keep just having sex all day, although she wants to have sex whenever she wants to have sex. And then he, Mark Ruffalo, he thinks he's like some sex god. He thinks he's like the Tom Jones of the steampunk 1800s. And so he's like, hey, by the way, try not to fall in love with me. Excuse me. And then he burps afterwards. No, I'm kidding. He's like, yeah, just try not to fall in love with me because I'm such a good lover. I'm such a Lothario. And she's like, okay, I won't. I'm not going to fall in love with you. I'm promised to marry Max. I'm going to go on this little sexual walkabout, have a little rumspringa, and then go back and, you know, marry the good guy. Good guy. This throws our little Mark Ruffalo for a loop. He's clearly not used to rejection, and he starts to simp out for, you know, because she's incredibly emotionally detached from him, and she clearly just sees him as a means to an end in no intentionally harmful way towards him. And that's the other thing. She's not trying to hurt him. She's not trying to use him. This is the clinical way that she thinks.
It is most charming. I am fine. Now I must lie down, and you must lie down on top of me and do more furious jumping.
And she's very blunt in her delivery.
Did you furious jump him?
No, he just fast licked my clitoris. I had the heat that needed release, so at my request, it was.
It challenges us to look at what she's doing and how she's exploring her sexuality and exploring pleasure and what it means to indulge in pleasure. It's challenging us, the viewer, or this is what I think the writers were thinking and the director. I think they're thinking, let's challenge the audience to think differently about women's sexuality, and, you know, that Bella, that we don't judge her in all of this. I'm not judging her, because in this universe of the movie, she is a grown woman with a child's brain. I'm not judging her. I'm judging everyone who fails to acknowledge this. Should she be having sex? She does have a grown body. That doesn't take away the ick factor. She's very curious, hungry to learn, and questions everything. And in that quest for knowledge, she also wants to live and enjoy and be independent. And so we're supposed to look at her like, yeah, she's a feminist icon. But she has she had a baby's brain. None of it's right. And yet it's a good movie. Like, this movie, right? It's just with your head. the other thing about this movie is it is really funny, and she's hilarious.
I must go punch that baby.
Just some of the things that she does, her mannerisms, she nails the toddler. I've never seen a person act so well with the toddler mannerisms since the toddler boss on SNL. I think it's Beck Bennett who did that. That shit was funny, because like a grown person acting like a baby. Well, that's just probably going to be our next president, no matter how you slice it. She has the weird dance scene where she's like dancing like a toddler. When my oldest son was a baby, he'd pull himself up from the table, and I think the show was Diego. It was Dora's cousin, Diego. And he loved that theme song. And that theme song was a bop. And at the end, they would like break it down with the bongos and stuff. And he would like do this. And then he'd shake his little tushy. And it was the cutest thing I've ever seen. And now that I've described that, that makes everything that much more up. That her weird toddler dancing, and then immediately after this scene, they probably go do it, and then I see her naked. That's up. That's up. This movie's up. So she gets out, and she explores the city, and she pukes because she overeats. And she like toddles back. She's all like, Mark Ruffalo is pissed, and he's like, "You can't leave me. You can," and she's like, "Well, I'm just gonna leave you anyway. I mean, you may as well let me do whatever I want." So he gets the bright idea of kidnapping her, and he kidnaps her, and then he takes her on this big cruise ship, and takes her out to sea. And then she's stuck, and she's once again a prisoner. Yet on this cruise ship, she starts making friends. She runs into Gerard Carmichael and some old bitch, and they're all enlightened and shit, and so they love her. She's kind of a freak. What else happened? So Mark Ruffalo is simping out on her. He really wants to control her. He really wants her to like belong to him, and she don't want it. She wants to be free. And plus she's like, "Look, I'm gonna marry that other guy because I said I would, so I'm gonna do that. Plus she realizes just what a terrible person this guy is." And she's like, "Yeah, no." So they end up, the cruise ship docks somewhere, and it's in Alexandria. And Gerard Carmichael's character, I told you he was going to be important. He ends up having this philosophical conversation with Bella, who is very intelligent, and she's wanting to know. She's wanting to know philosophy. She's studying philosophy now. She's reading all these books. She's having all these ideas. And he's like, "Yeah, but you are pretty privileged, and you stay in this little bubble, and people protect you, and the world isn't like that." So he's a cynic, and he's like, "No, the world is shit." And she's like, she has this wide-eyed just awe with everything she experiences, because she's experiencing things for the first time. Nobody really knows that except Mark Ruffalo, but besides that. So they all think she's just has this idiotic optimism, when really what it is just, the awe of experiencing decadence and all of these different feelings for the first time. So he's like, "You've never experienced suffering," which that's kind of bullshit, because her whole existence stems from suffering, right? She had to suffer somehow to throw herself off that bridge. But he's trying to open her mind and say, "Look, no, human beings are bad and the world is shitty, and you need to learn that in order to become more self-actualized." And so he shows her the slums of Alexandria, and there's dead babies there. It's really disturbing. And, there's people burying their dead children. And there's so much poverty and suffering. It's sort of her Siddhartha moment, right? She's not being protected anymore from her palace, and she finally gets to see the slums, and she has this profound visceral reaction to it, and it's almost like it's just too much for her to bear. And I thought this was a really interesting reaction of this part of the movie, because what she does is she runs away and tries to fling herself off of the side of this building that they're in, with just the grief of seeing all of this suffering and not being able to interpret it. So either that, because they don't quite tell you what that was. So either she's trying to fling herself because the world is shitty and there's no point of her living anymore if this exists in the world. So she's either trying to or she's trying to get to the people. So I still never figured that out. She is so bothered by the plight of the poor that she sees and the suffering and the slums that she witnessed, that she is just racking her brain what to do. What can she do? So like most white people, she goes and gets money and wants to throw it to the poor people, right? So she goes in, she steals money off of the drunken Duncan. I didn't plan on saying that. So she goes in and she steals, she takes, and she doesn't think of it as stealing because she thinks that's her money too. So she takes all the money that the lawyer has won in gambling on this boat, and she goes out to the ship, sailors? I don't know, some people who work on the ship. And she's like, hey, can you give all this money to the poor? And in typical, middleman fashion, they're like, oh, sure, we'll go give this money to the poor. You give it to us and we'll go give all your money to the poor. And then they're broke. They have nothing. And then they get kicked off the ship. So they get kicked off the boat. One of my favorite things about this movie is how it starts out in black and white. And then the minute she starts having experiences, the colors get very vivid, and there's such a really good use of color, because by the time she gets kicked off the boat, things have gone, it's not black and white again, but things just aren't as fantastical and colorful anymore. It just sort of looks like real life again. And I thought that was a really cool use of color. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just thought that was cool. They end up in Paris, and she's like, well, I did what I thought was right. And he hates her by now. He's like, you're the worst. Hate you. I'm going to leave you. Blah, blah, blah. He can't. He is, like I said, I don't think it's even love that he has for her. He just doesn't know how to handle a woman that doesn't want him. He just has no idea what to do with himself. And she clearly doesn't want him. And she starts to resent him. And she's like, no, you're kind of gross now. I don't want to even you anymore. So she's like, but I'll get us some money. So she's like, we can find money. I'm going to go find some money. So what's a naked Emma Stone to, she's not naked at this point, but you know where this is going. So how's she going to make money? She's in Paris. We all know what they do. Red, red wine goes to my head. It tastes so good. Red wine to make you feel so fine. Because I get hot, I got this little fan off Amazon. Look, then I can also have like a Beyonce moment. Got me looking so crazy right now. Looking so crazy in love. Got me looking so crazy in love. Nope, I just look like a middle-aged woman having a hot flash. So she ends up at a brothel because she's a feminist. She's gonna fuck for feminism. He ends up having sex with some gross guy and his wiener. It's a whole other thing. And it's not very good, but she does earn some money. And she's like, look, I think I can get some money, get some housing, and sexually experiment with whoever I want. I mean, it's a girl's dream. What girl wouldn't want all of that? She makes it sound like it's just, the ultimate problem solver. And huzzah for her, she's going to whore her way through med school. I don't know. Call me old-fashioned. I'm not shaming sex workers, but it's not furthering the cause. You're not doing much to change the perception of women at all. Okay? You're just kind of reinforcing the misogynistic view of women being a means to an end and being dehumanized and being reduced to just their bodies and their function, and they exist only to please men and whatever. But she somehow gets some kind of pleasure out of it because we sure do watch her have a lot of the sex. Meanwhile, back at God's house, a couple of things are happening. One, they found another body and decided, because they missed Bella so much, they're like, we need another Bella. So they go find another body and they get another brain, but this brain is not as smart as our Bella. This brain is pretty dumb. It's not developing at a rapid pace, and this person isn't curious or easy to teach, and pretty dumb. And so all of their experiments with this new Bella is failing. And this is where the assistant pissed me off, because don't do that. Don't assist him. This is not... Man, this opens a whole other debate, because they're just creating people. They're not getting any consent. They're reanimating corpses and putting different brains in them. This is mean. This is like a cruel God. What kind of cruel God would allow such a thing? Which is what I said when I had to see Mark Ruffalo's butt on screen. His hairy, nasty butt. In Paris, she's a great whore, and everyone wants her. She is like at the top of the whore list. She is like the belle of the whore ball, and everyone wants to her because she's just the best, and she's weird, and she looks like Emma Stone. At the whorehouse, she meets a socialist, a lady. They become friends and lovers. And there's really not much else to it, except that I think they just wanted a lesbian scene. I think the writers were like, it'd be cool. Get someone muff diving on Emma Stone. So they did. And then they get their lesbian scene. And she becomes a socialist. Good for her. She hears from Max. She gets a letter from God or Max or somebody, and she ends up going home because God is sick, and Daddy God, he's sick and dying. And so while she's there, she's like, you know what, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna become a doctor. I want to be a surgeon. I'll marry Max. I'm done with my whoring ways. I've made enough money. I'm gonna go to med school now. And this is all fine and good, and she fully prepares to marry Max, except that she just sent Duncan to the insane asylum because of her just, aloof detachment with him. And he goes mad, and, she just shows no emotion towards him. And so then he finds her old self's, the body. She jumped off the bridge in the beginning of the movie. And she did that because she was married to a psychopath. So Mark Ruffalo finds the guy that she was married to, and he's like, hey, you're my wife. You can't go marrying someone else. This is in Utah. Out of curiosity, I think she genuinely wanted to know, like, okay, who was I before I was a toddler? And so she goes with the guy, and he's just awful. He is just a true blue psychopath. He's always threatening to shoot her and shoot his servants, and he's just awful. And he tries to drug her, but it backfires, and she drugs him. Now, this is the part of the movie I think we could have done completely without. This is like the last 15 to 20 minutes of the movie that I think was a complete and utter waste of time. It didn't make the story any better. We knew she must have been driven to something desperate in order to jump off that bridge. We didn't need this character. And in fact, I would argue it makes her a less desirable character too. Because what she ends up doing is he tries to drug her, it backfires, she ends up drugging him. She drags his ass to the lab, and she gets the book, Daddy God's Notes, and then she replaces her husband's brain with a goat's brain, with the goat's brain. And this is supposed to be funny, I guess, but it's really up. She was developing, and as she developed, her speech got better. She wasn't walking like a toddler anymore. She was becoming more enlightened. She was becoming more empathetic and self-actualized. And I feel like all of that was overshadowed by this final moment of her becoming the monster creator. The monster becomes the creator. But I guess that's what they wanted. They wanted Frankenstein's monster to become the Dr. Frankenstein or whatever. I don't know. This wine is good. What else? Then Daddy God dies. It ends with like they're one big happy family. So the maid has the dumb Bella 2.0. And they've bonded. And so that's like a mother-daughter relationship. And then she brings in the lesbian lover from Paris, and I guess she's living with him now. And I wonder if she ever married Max. We don't really know because they don't really cover any of that. But Max is there too. And so then they're all just one big family, and then they show the guy like eating grass. Her ex-husband is like eating grass in the yard, and huzzah, and then it ends. So other than the ending, which I felt like it should have ended differently, and it should have just ended with her going to med school. But I guess they had to add like one more element of drama. It was funny enough that Mark Ruffalo ended up in the insane asylum. Like that was his punishment, basically, for being a douchebag and pretty much kidnapping her and everything, is that it all came back to him in the end. I would have been satisfied with just that. If he would have just stayed nuts and stayed crazy in the insane asylum. And so you decide. I think you should watch it. Not with the kids around. Do not watch it with the kids around. And only if you're prepared to like see a lot of pubic hair and a lot of weird nipples. Now, I'm not judging anyone's body. My body's weird. I have been told that I have like big areolas. What the fuck am I even doing? Why am I telling you all this? Anyway, and that's it.